Hello, and thank you so much for joining another episode of Driving Connections. I'm your host, Subi Ghosh, Executive Vice President, Dealer Authority. And with me today, I'm really excited because Michael is kind of the brother from another mother in the industry. We constantly joke that I was left out in the sun and he was in a cave, but we are definitely related just by the way that we think. So I'm very excited to have you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me. What's so funny?
So Michael's been in the industry since '98.
Yeah.
You are the president of Flex Dealer. And you may have heard of his show, Dealer Playbook. Lots of amazing people on. Gary Vaynerchuk is one of my favorite interviews that you guys have had on. It's a podcast. If you haven't, if you're in automotive and you haven't yet heard of it, please look it up. It's really fantastic. There's so many great concepts and topics that they talk about. And then most recently, author of Don't Wait, Dominate.
Yeah.
A really, really awesome read about digital marketing in general, I would say. Yeah.
I mean, I tried to gear it towards the car business as best I could, but really, I mean, anything we talk about it works from other industries.
Yeah.
I mean, look at what like driving sales does, right? They always try and bring people from outside the space to. So yeah, it was fun project.
Yeah. I enjoyed it, and I give it to people all the time. But the reason why we pulled up a laptop while we were having a conversation is because I think that in the industry, success is often just defined by whomever writes about it or talks about it, right? And I think that as an industry, we need to have a conversation about it. We were just talking about, why is it that we're hustling? It's all about the hustle and the grind. And while that is all important, I think it boils down to drive. And we talked about, let's maybe talk about the definition of success. So why don't we just kick it off from there and just talk?
I mean, you know what? Growing up, you think about success and how we're all conditioned to think about success the same way. It's lots of money, big house, vacations, private planes, $3,000 shoes, whatever it is. And that always kind of burdened me growing up because I was like, okay, cool, I'm never going to have that. And I don't know if that was just me being self-deprecating or whatever, but I was like, okay, so unless I'm a rock star or a movie star, which at some points in my life I thought I would be, like I thought I was going to be.
I think we all thought that.
Yeah, well, like I grew up watching like Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis and Red Skelton and all these guys, and I just loved comedy, and I was like, I'm going to be the next guy, like the next clean comedian or whatever that like doesn't beat his family on the side, but like,
oh my God.
But like, and so I went through a phase of that, and I was like, I'm going to be super rich, and I'm going to, all these sorts of things. And then I grew up, and it's not to say that to some degree I still don't believe that money is part of the equation.
Right.
But I'll spare the details. I went through about a decade of like severe depression. I came out of it with just a greater understanding about the depth of life and just, a greater resolve to achieve success. And one of the things that I thought was, I guess, most enlightening for me was it's actually definition B in the Merriam-Webster dictionary,
Okay.
If you look up definition B in Merriam-Webster dictionary for success, it says a favorable or desired outcome.
Okay.
And I thought for a second, I'm like, okay, what does that mean? We're taught that success looks a certain way, sounds a certain way, is a certain way. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, but what's favorable and desired for me? Like, what would a favorable and desired outcome be for me? And I internalized that, and I thought about that a lot, and I realized, well, wait a second. What Subi Ghosh's definition of what's favorable and desired isn't what Michael Cirillo's definition is, or whoever, or for those that are listening in or watching. If you take a minute and you say, okay, well, hold on a second. What is favorable and desired to me? We realize that everyone has their own definition of success.
Right.
And because of that, by virtue of that, there's more than enough success to go around.
And that is something I think that as an industry we need to talk about, because I see so many people chasing something because it is what is written of what being a successful salesperson or being a successful internet director or being a successful vendor means. It means, on the vendor side, it means that you're at every single conference and that you are in magazines, or you're on the cover of one. And there's all sorts of different ways that you can achieve any of those things. And some of them aren't even successes. You're purchasing or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think we need to really take a hard look, and instead of hustling for the sake of hustling, we need to slow down. We need to take a look and define success as it means to us and write our goals accordingly.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm at the center of my own universe.
Yeah.
And, my definition of hustle, or the way that looks to me, is relative to me.
Exactly.
It's relative to my position. So if I look at, the Daily V or Cardone Zone, and I love those shows, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the energy of them and all those sorts of things. I look up to, and in some ways, I aspire to be or obtain some character traits of both of those individuals. Yeah. But at the end of the day, when that show's turned off,
mm-hmm.
and when I'm sitting at my desk, or when I'm leading my team, or when I'm trying to expand my business, or whatever it is, when I'm trying to improve my relationship with my spouse or my children, hustle depends on my exact coordinates in my sphere.
Right.
Not Gary V's. And I think a lot of times we look at the Gary V's of the world, the Richard Bransons, the Bill Gates, the Cardones, and we go, oh, well, in order to get where they are, I have to not have a life.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, the reality of it is, if you want exactly what they have, you're not going to have a life. The problem is, when you get exactly what they have, you won't be happy, because it's not what you want.
Yeah.
So a favorable and desired outcome. Those guys, good on them. They are going after what they want, because they've taken the time to just sit down and say, what's my definite? Like, what is favorable and desired for me as an individual?
That's a great point. I also feel that instead of, like you say, like defining it for you and then going after what you want in the way that makes sense for you, hustling, for me, I feel like there's been this negative connotation to it, because it just means you've got to constantly be out there, whereas it could just be pushing yourself a little bit further from whatever is comfortable to you to achieve that much more.
Yeah.
And there's a huge difference in trying to emulate someone and then draw inspiration from, and then be your own person. And I think we miss that a little bit in the industry. There's so many people trying to be what everybody else expects that role to be, and not just being themselves and understanding it and setting their own path.
And that's the problem. That's what creates the problem. Everyone's like, hustle, 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 hustle. Look, I'll be the first one to admit, I have no problem with the hustle. I am constantly pushing myself.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
But I am not pushing myself to be, like, I will never be Grant Cardone. He's another person. He's an individual. I am me. I have my characteristics. I have my personality type. I have all of these sorts of things. And so the best thing that I can do is learn about myself, leverage my strengths, delegate my weaknesses, figure out what it is that I want to achieve. Where's my energy best spent? But yeah, it's not one size fits all.
It isn't.
It's my size fits me.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And so whether you're an internet director, a GM, a dealer principal, it doesn't matter. Look, I was just in Holland. I'm standing.
Just nonchalantly throw that in there.
Just in Holland, by the way. I asked, show of hands. We were talking to, the 50 largest dealer groups in the country.
I remember.
Big business, and I asked them, loosely related to this, kind of the same thing. But I said, who here has a vision?
Mm-hmm.
And to go a step further, who here has a vision statement? These are all these are the owners of the groups. 40, 50 dealerships in these groups, kind of a thing. And I don't know, 6, 7 people out of 50 raise their hands. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like, wait a second, do you even know why you're getting out of bed? Do you know why you want to crush the competition?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, your store, your dealership is in a town with 10,000 people, and you're trying to go at the same pace and the same level of a store who sells 400 or 500 cars a month in a metropolitan like crazy, or And not to mention you're in a town of 10.5 and you're trying to sell like Mercedes, and they're selling like Chevys in a city with 4 or 5 million people. You can't. You have to say, in my sphere, what is my definition of success? What are the objectives that I can accomplish to take me there? And am I and then just don't be complacent, but you don't have to
We also don't set obtainable goals.
Yeah.
We set these unrealistic goals, and then we end up breaking our sales teams all the time because of these ridiculous pay plans that don't ever make sense. And then we set these goals that are unrealistic for our internet teams and so forth. That was something that I fought all the time on the dealer side. Let's make it realistic. You don't have to give them the world, but even give them steps to get to the unobtainable goal. Because if they hit it, then great for all of us. But if they don't feel like they can even achieve it, they're not going to. And the same goes for you. Let's stop setting these goals that are unobtainable. And I always have my someday maybe crazy goal.
Yeah, sure.
But I also have the small ones that I need to hit this year or in the next 3 years that keep me driving forward outside of just my regular responsibilities, because I think we lose sight of who we are at some point, especially on the vendor side. It's such a different world. And it's funny that we're talking about this because I feel JD had an intervention with me. JD Rucker had this intervention.
You're like locked into a hotel room somewhere. They had letters to read to you. Yeah, I didn't see that.
I was having this conversation where I was questioning so many things about myself, and he goes, "Subi, this is part of the process, but you really need to identify why you're being so hard on yourself, what it is that you're evaluating yourself for, because whatever it was last year or the year before is not the same, especially when you come onto the vendor side, because there's a whole new set of rules. There's a whole new set of evaluations for evaluating the people that you're surrounding yourselves with, and the people that maybe you put on a pedestal before as role models and mentors and stuff. Those all change. So every single year, now it's something that I actively do. I look at that, like, who do I want to try to emulate? Who do I want to draw inspiration from? Who do I want to keep around me as mentors? Because there are times where you outgrow your mentors, but you can still keep them as an important part in your life. It's just maybe you outgrow, or maybe the vision is different. So part of defining success for yourself is defining who you surround yourself with to be able to achieve some of the more unobtainable goals, but have like that stair step that you can chip away at things to get there.
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up, that, what's that phrase? It's like you are you will earn the average of your 5 closest friends or something like that. Or
never heard of that, but it makes kind of sense.
Yeah, well, I was always like, how does that make any sense? But then I realized, well, that's your circle.
Yeah.
And if your circle of influence, let's put it this way. Whatever your definition of success is, you need to know who to listen to.
Absolutely.
And the easiest recipe that I found for that is that it's got to be someone or some group or whatever that have the things that you want and obtained them by doing the things that they're telling you to do. So they themselves did those things, and that's how they achieved. And so they can give you that advice. So when you look at your circle of influence, for me as an entrepreneur, startup, tech, whatever, I have a circle of influence. I've got somebody who I respect on the real estate end of things, because that's something that I want to be able to expand into. I've got somebody who's phenomenal at taxes. I have somebody that's phenomenal at scaling business. Somebody that's phenomenal, and they've all done it. When I look at my circle of influence, I mean, if money is your gauge for success, I mean, it's like a collective net worth of $6 billion or something like that between these 4 or 5 guys. And I'm like,
that's not a bad number.
No, but they're all successful, when it comes to money. But they're when I have real estate advice, I go to my real estate guy.
Right.
When I have leadership advice, I go to my leadership guy, who that's his thing. And
your circle of influence is what I call my genius network. I pick people in each category that I can run to, and maybe even if it's a multi-headed beast that I need to tame, then I get them on the phone with each other and they can kind of help me through it.
Yeah.
By having these circle of influence, your circle or your genius network, surrounding yourself with voices that are imperative to you being able to define what it is that you want and get valuable resources and knowledge from those people is exceptionally important.
Not only that, a telltale for somebody who is living their definition of success, they don't feel threatened by you
Absolutely.
pursuing your definition
Absolutely.
of success. They're so encouraging
Yeah.
of it. Like when I talk to my people, they're like, "That's awesome," or "No, don't do that."
Yeah.
But they're never like, "Oh, really? That's expensive." Like they're not dream
Yeah.
stealers. There's way too many dream stealers.
Yeah.
I remember
Way too much.
I remember one of my employees was like, when I had first hired them, they said, we want to own a home. My fiance wants to open a barbershop, like one of those like real trendy, like does the shaves and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, fantastic. A month later, the fiance is now working on the oil fields. And I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Oh, well, we were told we wouldn't get approved for a mortgage if we were self-employed. And I'm like, who the balls told you that? Oh, my mom. And I'm like, does your mom own a house? No. Is your mom self-employed? No. And I'm like, why'd you take advice from somebody who doesn't know? So, I mean, in the dealership world, we kind of do this all the time as well. I mean, look, we're filming this on location at a conference.
Yeah.
There will be dealers at this conference who hear something out of context for their store. Yeah. They're going to go home, sound the alarm, scramble the jets, get that vendor, get that solution, get that whatever. And then 6 months later, they're going to cancel everything. They're going to be mad. They're going to be bitter. That negative stigma that perpetuates throughout the industry of all vendors suck and blah, blah,
It's so
blah.
funny because it's true.
But here's the problem. The same way that's perpetuated from dealers to vendors is the exact same thing that's happening for consumers to dealers.
Yeah.
And so the I guess the epicenter of it is because we haven't sat down by ourselves and taken the time to clearly identify what it is that we want to achieve. And then what you said about goals. For me, I actually think of goals slightly different than a lot of people. There's goals and then there's the results. And so for me, a goal is not to open the door. That's the way most people set goals.
Right.
I'm going to go and open the door. No. Your first goal is to stand up out of the chair. Your second goal is to walk to the door. Your third goal is to put your hand on the handle. Your fourth goal is to open the door.
Right.
The result is that the door opened.
Right.
And so we have to do this, okay? You want leads. What type of leads? What are you going to do to build awareness? What are you going to do to expand your message? What audience are you trying to attract? How big's your market? Are you going to do it on Facebook? Are you going to do it through... Do you see where I'm going? Those to me are the goals. Mm-hmm. My goal is to learn as much as I can about Facebook ads. That's my goal. So what are the steps? What are the mini goals? So for me, a goal is the furthest thing, the closest thing to my achievement. And when you realize, okay, I've defined success or I've defined the desired outcome for myself, now I can sit there and just chart out the steps that are going to take me from here to there. And then the thing is, you got to remember, wait, this is my definition of success. Yeah. My hustle is to take that step, to take those steps. Small steps are still steps. Yes. I don't have to run up 5 stairs jump from 5 stairs at a time. I'm going to go 1 stair at a time. I think about my wife. She started running 6 months ago, or no, maybe a little longer, maybe a year ago. And it wasn't, hey, I'm going to go run that 20K marathon or half marathon. It was, I'm going to try and get to a K, and then I'm going to try and do 2K, and then 5K, and then 7K, and then 10K. But she was like, I'm going to work my way up to 25K, and she did that. But it wasn't like, oh yeah, I'm going to do 25K. That's my definition. It just... It's
one of those things that's, quitting smoking, running a 5. Everyone puts these big ideas in their heads, and then they quit because they're trying to go from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
But if you step it out, and that's perfect the way that you said that, because it also relates to defining success for your department. I think it's easy when you work for yourself, right? Or you are in upper management.
Yeah.
But a lot of the times, a lot of the people in automotive they run teams, and yet they have 15 layers to get to the top. And even if they do have direct access to the top, they still get their goals given to them rather than a collaboration. So what you were talking about and setting those goals in result form and then stepping it out, that's an important takeaway from the conversation for me. A lot of internet directors, I think, would benefit from that kind of mentality. But also, just to take it one step further, I think when you do that, you have to be exceptionally communicative with upper management. Because a lot of times, internet directors, not just internet directors, in any industry, I just had this conversation with my husband too, management is going to put on as much responsibility as you're willing to take. And unless you illustrate it in a non-complaining kind of way, but if you have open communication and illustrate to these people, this is what is taking time, these are the ways that we can be efficient, these are the goals we want to achieve, and this is realistically how long it's going to take to get there, then I think the internet teams will start to feel more like a part of the sales team and not this separate bubble. There's so many internet directors that are messaging me like, I'm ready to leave, can you help me?
Yeah.
And every single time I want to say, wait, let's think it through, because a lot of them have dream gig scenarios where if they just broke it down, they probably would have that's not to say that a lot of dealers do not appreciate what a lot of these people do. But having that communication and setting those goals is more important now than ever before, with as much that is being evolved in technology and more is getting thrown on these directors and managers and so forth.
Well, and you said a word that means a lot if you think about it, and that's team.
Oh yeah.
We throw out this word team like, oh yeah, it's my team. Dude, you don't know the definition of the word team. You don't act, you don't communicate.
Yeah.
Look, communication. And I found this in my own business. The lack of communication is why wars start. Like, think about that for a second. It's like,
okay,
right? He said, she says, the telephone game.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we think that we're going to achieve anything by not communicating. So you said, I need to be able to communicate to upper management, and upper management needs to be able to communicate with me, and there needs to be open lines of communication. Well, you're not going to be a team, a true team. You're not going to be a team unless you're communicating. Like, think about a basketball team. Like, and wow, I should not be doing sports analogies here because, like, I wrestled in high school, but, like, I pretty much don't know a thing about sports except for.
And you're from Canada.
And I'm from Canada, so, like, what do we do?
Hockey, but really nothing else.
No, we like fill up like milk jugs with water, freeze it,
curling.
And you're like curling.
You've got curling, so
which I know nothing about.
Lies.
Like literally nothing about. I don't understand. But anyways, can you imagine watching a basketball game where the team didn't communicate when they were on the court? They know the signals. They're always throwing up. I don't know what this means, but I always see them throwing up a 1, and I imagine they're throwing up a 2. They're throwing I imagine that they are communicating
volleyball,
something, a play, or whatever.
Coaches would throw us out of the team if we didn't communicate in volleyball, because you have to say you're going to get it or everyone just collides, and then you leave open space.
Not only that, speaking of the coach, because we often talk a lot about like what you and I could do on the ground level at a dealership, or what the internet directors can do where the rubber meets the road. But, okay, you're a leader at a dealership. Pull up your socks and get to work. As the coach, take the time, invest the time to learn your team members' strengths and weaknesses, and figure out how to empower them, leveraging their strengths, to achieve not only what they want, but what you want. Like, if we could have just adopt the Zig Ziglar, help other people get what they want, you get what you want. That's been, for me and my organization, my company, that's been one of the most powerful things to say, to just sit with one of my team members and say, hey, listen, if you don't achieve your definition of success by virtue of working for this company, I've failed in my stewardship for you. Right. Not over you, for you.
Right.
Look, this is your business. These are 40, 50, $60 million organizations.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I live in a town with like 70,000 people, and there's 8 or 9 dealerships. who all average between 30 and 40 million. Like, these are $30 million companies.
Oh, absolutely.
Where there shouldn't be a $30 million company. If you as the leader don't take responsibility and say, you know what, how can I leverage Subi's strengths? Can I sit down with Subi and say, hey, Subi, what are your goals? What are the things you'd like to achieve this year? How can I help that? What can I do to help you achieve that? Then, dude, get out of business.
Yeah.
Like, why are you in business?
I feel like a lot of it that we're talking about is out of the control of the people that really want to change it.
Yeah.
Just, speaking NADA about culture, I got to run into so many people that wish they could affect the change and they just can't. And a lot of that is handed down sales managers that got the title through not real management experience or even qualities, but just through, the way that it goes in automotive. Sometimes people get titles they don't deserve. That doesn't mean that there aren't amazing sales managers out there, but it's definitely an issue. The concept of team, they call it a team, but we don't see as many coaches as we should.
Yeah.
In the space.
You know what it is? Because what I just said, to the leader, directed to the leader.
Yeah.
How do I empower? How do I help my team get what they want? That's the exact same thing that needs to happen from the employee, from the team member. Wait a second. Am I just here counting down the hours till I can go home? Can I look at my boss in the eyes and sincerely wish them to be successful? You see, because it goes both ways.
It does.
If I, as an employee, where rubber meets the road, can help somebody else achieve success, I mean, there's so many dimensions here. It also goes to how you interact with your customer. Yeah. But if I can be a positive influence for
I call it buy-in.
Buy-in.
You have to be bought into them. They have to buy into you, or else you're not going to want them to succeed, and they're not going to push to help the company succeed.
You have to understand your leader,
Everyone's
too.
They've
been burned so many times.
Oh, yeah.
The turnover in dealerships is atrocious. Let's just start there. So this individual, this leader, kind of doesn't trust you coming into the organization. And so, but you can quickly flip that on your head by saying, hey, can we have 5 minutes? I just had an idea. I want to run past you and say, hey, Subi, I love working here. What can I do to help this store achieve success or its vision? Or how can I be a better representation of our core values? You know what's going to happen? You'll know more about this than I do, like the reverse psychology of it. But it's like that leader is going to be like, holy crap, what's our vision statement? What's our mission statement? What are our core values? And it's gonna be that prick in their...
And if they don't have it, I mean, this has happened to me every single time. When I go in and say, what about this, this, and that? And if it's not in there, they will likely let you run it so that you can put those things in place so you start to affect the change.
They're going to be like, thank the Lord that there is someone that can figure this out for me.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of processes, procedures, and structure, right?
Yeah.
And I have been at almost every single place that I've worked at, I have been either the catalyst or the leader of change to implement those things. Because if that is something that's important to me, instead of complaining about it, and one of the things that I learned from my old GM is if you're going to complain about something, come with a plan on how to fix it. Far too often we go in because it's not our business, right? We go in, we complain about it, but we have nothing to present to say, and this is what we need to change. Even if you don't have all the answers, present ideas on how to fix it.
Empower your leader to lead.
Exactly.
Not just like, and we talk about this, like, oh, here's this problem. Just thought you should know about it. It's like, no, what I love is when my team comes to me and says, hey, Michael, we've encountered a problem, but here's a couple of solutions we've thought through.
Yeah.
Now, as a leader, I'm like, okay, let's look at this. Do that one.
Yeah.
I still got to lead if I had that ego.
Yeah.
And they got what they wanted, and they get to go home tonight feeling like, you know what, I made some changes here. I influenced some change.
We can talk forever.
This, of course, all has to do with your own definition of success, because
exactly.
You know what, like, just to bring it around.
Let's tie it in a nice little bow.
Because look, if you've taken the time and you say, okay, here's what my favorable and desired outcome is, then success isn't just one big bucket. It's many buckets all over the place. Like, what's my definition of success as a father, as a husband? What's my definition of success when it comes to my spirituality? What's my definition of success when it comes to my career? What's my definition of success when it comes to relationships, colleagues, my customers? What's my definition of success? There's so many different things that you need to invest that time yourself and say, okay, pen to paper, what is it for me? Let's define it here.
And I feel like the more time you spend in the industry, the more you have to do that, because you get lost in the mess of what everybody else expects of you, for you, defines for you. And if you don't have your own definition, you just become another robot, another piece of the puzzle, instead of standing out and doing something that makes you happy.
And here's the paradigm shift. If part of your definition of success in your business, in your dealership, whatever your position is, if part of your definition is to help other people achieve their definition of success, then you're expecting that you might be in an organization where the leader doesn't quite know what they're doing yet, or you might feel that way. But part of your definition is helping them figure it out and being a valuable resource or asset to them. Now it's not like, man, I hate my job.
Yeah.
It's, wow, I'm
But you need to know that about yourself and to define it in order to find the right fit. There are so many people in this industry that don't find the right fit and bounce around, or just generally unhappy. But there is a right fit for everyone. You just have to find it. But in order to find it, you have to know what it is that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
So if you wanted to leave everyone with one final thought about defining success, what would that be?
I'd probably say that if you took the time to sit down and actually define it for yourself, you'll realize that you're actually more successful than you thought you were.
Oh, absolutely. Every
right?
time.
All of a sudden you're going to be like, oh, wait a second, I'm already achieving a lot of my definition of success. Maybe the thing that's lacking is you just haven't formally defined it for yourself. And then the other part of it is that, look, giving is essential to receiving. So if part of your success is to receive a lot, then expect to give a lot.
Absolutely.
No holds, no bars, no catch, no whatever. I'm going to give of myself, my talents, my energy, my resources, my knowledge, my whatever it is. Expect to give a lot. And just watch out, because the floodgates are going to open. It's going to come right back at you. Call it karma, call it whatever you want to call it. Okay, all I know is that the more I give, the more I receive. And it propels me to my definition of success, and it will for you at lightning speed.
So Michael hit some amazing points about defining success and just the whole gamut of it all. So the only thing I want to leave you with is, don't be afraid to define success in terms that aren't popular. For me and you, the dollars and cents aren't what drives either of us.
Is that Canadian dollars? Or?
Well, if it was Canadian dollars, I'm a millionaire.
Then it's just the cents. Then it's just the sense of it.
Just the sense of it all. But money is never my greatest motivator, and that's okay. You can be in automotive and still be exceptionally driven and not have money be your greatest motivator. And if that's the case, that's okay. If time with your family is your greatest motivator and you are working to be able to achieve more time with your family, whatever it is, don't be afraid to do the unpopular thing. Just define whatever it is and make sure it makes sense for you. That's all that matters, because you can achieve success in a lot of different ways, and you can have your dreams that maybe aren't what everybody else thinks. But the more you define it and you talk to other people, you'll find people that think just like you, that become part of your circle of influence, that become the people that you turn to when you need to be talked off the ledge or need to vent about, crazy people. So thank you so much for tuning in to Driving Connections. It's been a wonderful chat. How do people get a hold of you if they want to talk to you or to find out more?
Yeah, send me an email, michael@flexdealer.com, or you can call me 250-307-9224.
Wow, just giving out the digits just like
Why
that.
not?
And you can always follow me on Twitter @Subi101, @AskSubi, or you can email me at subi@dealerauthority.com. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.